Yeah, yeah. Too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. She got me thinking that she too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad, too bad. She got me thinking that she.
Introductions first. My name is Joel Casanova, your favorite mobile dance educator. What's a mobile dance educator? I'm glad you asked. Basically, I'm a mobile dance educator, which means I teach people, but I am mobile. I can go to you. You can come to me, because I don't think dance should be held in a specific spot. Dance is about bodies. It's not about buildings. So I either online or in person or through travel, I give people dance education. I created this community so I could basically bring specific people together who want to get deeper into their training, or into their introduction to dance, and get this quality training regardless of where they are or what level they're at. And speaking of which, I'm super excited because I'm in the process of basically creating intro classes that people can take anywhere, right? So there'll be pre-recorded intro classes that will be like introductions to courses that I'm going to release later on. And so those courses will be like a one-on-one experience that you can kind of grow through. Not kind of grow through, that you can grow through, but they'll still be private lessons. So I'm super excited about it. I even got a new computer in order to do all that editing. And so it's supposed to have a better camera too. So mic, camera, editing, I'm like neck deep in tech YouTube video tutorials. Anyway, so this month, this is the first live stream of April, which is the monthly topic, inspiration from others. Inspiration from others. And choosing the monthly theme of inspiration from others was a very specific choice, because that means we're not talking about epiphanies, right? Like creating in a vacuum by yourself and this getting this revelation that you're like, oh my gosh, I just created this idea, or this just came to me. I just realized blank. We're talking about the stimulation that you get from other people that triggers you in a good way to do something. So that process is like a 3-step process, I believe. The first one is see something. The second one is do something, feel something. The last one is do something. So seeing something is the most straightforward part of the process, right? Because we're talking about others. That's where the others from others comes in when it comes to inspiration. And so you play music and your friend across the room does something and you're like, what? Or you scroll onto YouTube and you see your friend from across the world do something, right? So it's like the fact of what they just did, plain and simple, right? They did this to this song. They said this about their story. They had a conversation about blah. Let's just take it to the dance perspective, because we can go in a bunch of different directions. Like they did this thing, they did this dance, and you're like, right? So that goes straight into the second part, which is the feel something. This is where things get a little more complicated, involved, whatever word you want to use, because 9 times out of 10, if we're talking about inspiration, you see your friend on YouTube across the world, or you see your friend across the room do something because you played music, and you're like, whoa, I absolutely love what they just did, right? And you're just like mind blown. And so those feelings are when you first put yourself into the equation, right? So you have the separation of the fact they did something, not me, they did, right? When you put yourself into the equation, what I see a lot of dancers do is they bring it back to them in fact instead of feeling, right? They did that. Can I do that? Like, oh, I could never do that, right? It starts leaking into comparison. Or it's like, yeah, I did that. I could do that. I've done that better, Okay, so what's the big deal? And you stop appreciating the gift of seeing someone else dance, right? And so instead of taking into fact, take it into feeling. Like they just did something. How do I feel about what they just did? Right? Not like this is not like a therapy session. Like, how did you feel about that? No, it's like, whoa, what impacted me about what they just did? Like, think of the significance of what they just did. Think of the artistry of their movement. Think of the talent that they have. Think of the work ethic or the work that it took to do that. How do you feel about those things? Right? You have to bring those feelings. You have to bring the feelings in for two reasons, right? The first reason is because dance is an emotionally interactive sport. Okay, it is intended to affect the non-physical, the emotional side of human beings, right? Period. Regardless of what you think, that's just the fact, right? The second thing is that those feelings that you feel, like someone does something and you're like, bruh, like those feelings will never be felt by anyone else in the world ever again for the rest of time. They're wholly unique to you, right? Because, like, say we both see these two, we both see like two people in the audience, they both see this person, and it's like a heartbreaking scene of this dancer who does like a solo, right? And you feel heartbreak, and the other person feels heartbreak, but those two heartbreaks are worlds apart, right? Because when you experience something, when you feel something, you're feeling it through the filter of your life experiences, your thoughts, your perspective, your personality, what you're going through right now, where you were physically. Like I saw it from one angle, you saw it from the other angle, right? Like all those factors come together and you have these new feelings that don't exist to anyone else at all. Right? And so that goes straight into the third section, which is do something, right? So you saw something and then you felt something and then you have this now like bucket of paint, right? And those feelings are what you're going to then dip in and they give you a new color, right? Because they're completely unique feelings, which will result in completely unique and new outcomes, right? Again, we can take this in a bunch of different ways, but we're talking about dance specifically right now. Like, so I create a dance or I start dancing in a way that is totally different, or have a perspective on dance that's completely different, or I choreograph or I freestyle in a way that's like, whoa. And this is something that we all started with. At some point, you got inspiration from someone, not from yourself, but because you saw someone else. And those feelings then went into you and out, and it came out in a different way. And so those things, it's kind of it's very unique because um first you are pulling from new feelings, right? So it's almost like the epiphany scenario. You're in a vacuum and then you made an idea, but instead you then took some inspiration you took the fact of someone else and then you put it into this and it created a new color, right? So you have blue. What can I do with blue? I can paint water, I can paint the sky, I can paint blue flowers, right? And then all of a sudden someone added a different color and your color changes and you're like, whoa, what else can I create? Right? So at first you had the epiphany, the creativity in a vacuum, and then someone else added in their new color. And so it's not that you just swapped out their color, right? Like they had green, and so you're like, well, I'm just gonna add green and start painting with green now instead of blue. No, you add a different color and you have a completely new color because it's mixed together, and only you can do those specific things. And the analogy breaks down after a while, but that's the idea. The second thing is because they're your feelings and you own them and they're unique to you, you are doing something with the core being yourself, which is yourself is the core. And that's what should be at the core of anything you do that is creative. So then they add the color, you mix in the color, you splash some on the canvas. Now someone else sees that canvas, right? Which goes to technically the fourth part, which is repeat. You basically start over at this cycle of see something, do something, see something, feel something, do something. But you're at the beginning instead of at the end. You splash something on the canvas and someone saw it and they're like, and then maybe them feel something, which then made them do something, which then someone else saw it, and then they saw it, and it's just this continual cycle and it's this perpetual wave because I could do something, right? I splashed it on the canvas. You saw me do this thing. I was like, blah. And you're like, whoa. And then you create something out of what I did because you got inspiration. And then I see you. And then I get inspiration from you. And then I create something. And then you get inspiration from me. And then with just 2 dancers in the entire world, you can have endless inspiration. But there isn't just 2 dancers in the world. There's like a lot more. Okay, like understatement of the world. And so when you have the that's all wrapped in this idea of inspiration, right? Getting inspiration from others is this process of seeing, feeling, recreating out of those new feelings. And so it's so important. It's so important to get inspiration from others because of that perpetual thing. First of all, it just feels so good, right? That's one of the best parts of community. Like being supported because you're like, yo, that was amazing. I'm going to create something new. And then you feel validated. You're like, whoa, thank you so much for appreciating what I just did. And then it's even humbling to see someone else create something out of yourself. But then it's not just humbling because you saw someone else create something out of what you did and you spurred on the idea. But now you are now enjoying something else. You can now see something that you enjoy that someone else created. And so that give and take is like the best feeling in community ever, which is why it's so important for us. And so it's why comparison is so toxic, because it jumps onto the back of inspiration and then makes everything you touch disgusting. Right? It could be like, whoa, that was awesome. And you do something, and they're like, whoa, and you're like, thank you. And you do something else. And then they're like, wow. And then they do something, and you're like, wow. Instead, it's like, screw you, man. Forget. I could have done that. No. I mean, I could never do that. I wish I could do. And you're like, whoa. Do you realize that the inspiration you're getting is a gift? Seeing someone else dance and having someone else see your dance, that's a gift. And so when it comes to comparison, either you tear yourself down and you're like, oh, they have the thing that I don't, instead of saying, wow, it's such a gift to see this person do this thing. And then you do something and then they get something from you. And instead of saying, yeah, I'm so much better at dancing than you, like get out of my way, it's like this, you're gifting someone something and you get to see the inspiration come out from them. And you're like, wow, that's a gift to me, just the fact that I'm gifting it to you. And so it's so important. It's so important. I could talk about this for days, but I think hopefully we'll be able to touch on either in the next shows or later on this month, dealing with comparison, because the remedy is inspiration. So here's the thing. Speaking of that, I'm going to have more people and more interviews come on for this month, but in the topic of inspiration from others. So I'm super excited to get some people together. I already have some ideas boiling. Also, not only keep an eye out for that, but also download the app and turn on notifications, because in this theme, I'm going to start jumping on randomly and start doing live streamed vlogs, right? So it's not necessarily an episode. It's like an idea attached to this episode. And so it'll be a vlog. I'm just kind of, sharing my thoughts. But then we can have like conversations between just us, which is going to be cool. And then the conversation will change based off of who joins. So those won't be in the talk show folder in topics. That'll be under the vlogs the vlog topics, the vlog folder and topics. But yeah, so I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say what's happening next week, but it's gonna be a panel conversation essentially, and so I'm not gonna say who's coming on, but I'm super excited to have them together. And let me end this live stream before I say too much. I'll see you guys next week.